Good morning. Welcome to Member Focus Monday. I'm Christina Schaefer, Social Media Manager for HAR. I'm welcoming back Gerald Klassen with the Real Estate Center at Texas A&M University. Welcome, Gerald.
Good morning, Christina.
Thank you.
Good.
It's good to see you via Skype again.
Good.
So, for those of our members that have not heard from you before, I know this is your third appearance on our program, but if they haven't heard from you before, if you could just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I am the research data scientist at the Real Estate Center, and I'm in charge of developing our data warehouse for producing insightful analytics for the Texas real estate market.
Very good. Thank you. So, the last time you were on this program, we took a look at the market and how the pandemic might be affecting it. We didn't have, the numbers we have now, so we can take an even more of an in-depth look at that today. You have a lot of insight to share about home prices and why we're seeing what we're seeing there, but also iBuyers, which we kind of teased a little bit the last time you were on.
Right, right.
Right. So very good. So again, last time you were on this program, we were seeing the beginnings of the pandemic's effect on the market. Generally, if you could, just how is the Houston market holding up, and also maybe even Texas as a whole?
Okay, let me start with Texas.
Hmm.
I think it's pretty obvious that the historically low mortgage rates have really unleashed a wave of buying. And I think at this point we're past the pent-up demand from the lockdown into really a full-blown interest rate driven purchases. Interest rates are really what's driving a lot of folks into the market to purchase. Um, we're seeing in the Texas market significant price changes in the price distribution of homes being sold. What you're seeing is uh, increased job uncertainty and tighter credit for folks, lower income folks, is putting a damper. And so on low priced homes, we're seeing fewer low priced homes being sold. And at the same time, the historic drop in mortgage rates, combined with Fed stimulus from purchases of mortgage backed securities, is really driving the growth of sales in high priced homes. Uh, and what I've seen so far, and this is statewide, is that the flow into pending listings during this month has still been very strong. And so I think we're going to have not only a strong August, but we're going to see a strong September year over year in sales.
That's great. That's good to hear.
Uh, it's good to hear. Folks are making money, which is good. As far as the Houston market goes, I have been really surprised at how strong the Houston market has been, given both it's been a hotspot for the virus and the challenges for the energy industry. So Houston has held up very well. Uh, Getting more into the details, I'd say that the decline in the sales of low priced homes has been smaller than the other major metros, but the increase in sales of high priced homes has also been smaller than the other metros. So it's been just right. Um, the strength of sales growth is really varies by area. You've heard the comments about people are moving to the suburbs. Well, we're going to see some maps that I think
Hmm.
will be very interesting for people to see where the growth has been in sales. And it really varies by local area. As well, the closed to original list price ratio.
Hmm.
It's moved, but very little overall. But there again, when you dig into the details, it varies by local area. In some, you hear these anecdotes about people paying way more than list price and bidding wars. And so that may be going on in certain parts of the market for certain types of homes, but it's not the general market.
Hmm.
And so we'll see some statistics about that. Also, change in home sizes. We hear the stories about, well, people are buying bigger homes. Well, um, that also varies by area. So I'd say there's a lot of variance, and we're gonna point that out this morning.
Very good. Thank you. So Gerald mentioned some slides. We are going to show you some slides in this program, but we also will share his entire presentation with you guys towards the end. So be sure to stick around for that. So you already alluded to it, but the current data seems to imply that home prices are rising very quickly.
Mhm.
But you know, you and I've discussed already that that's not truthfully what's happening. Can you explain why we are seeing that trend of average home prices going up?
Uh, uh, Absolutely. So it's been concerning to me that some of the way the statistics are being reported, there's some very high increases year over year in price. And at the center, we produce a report that breaks prices out. And for existing single family home sales in July, so this is July 2020 compared to July 2019,
Mm-hmm.
we saw for existing single family a year over year price increase of 9.2%. Well, people might look at that and say, oh, wow, my home is now worth 9.2% more than it was last July. I saw a Redfin article last week, 10% increase in home prices. But we really have to be careful with the way statistics are calculated at the aggregate level. How much of that change in average price was caused by or can be attributed to the change in mix, and how much can be attributed to the change in home values? And I really appreciate the way HAR uh, did their press release for July. They had a great paragraph in there talking about the different volumes that, different growth in different price ranges. And I really like this statement. The combined strength in high-end and mid-range markets pulled average and median prices to historical levels. And that's really, it's the volume that's pulling the price higher. And I want to go through a little mathematical exercise.
Okay.
I know it's early Monday morning, but we'll put on our math hats
We're
here.
ready. We're ready.
And I dipped back into my financial analysis tools and pulled out a thing called variance analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do this variance analysis. And the first thing I want to do in this variance analysis is isolate the impact in the change of volume. So let's do a volume variance analysis. Now, let's say there's a hypothetical market in July of 2019 where 3 homes sold. And we've got a low-priced home sold for a little over 157,000, mid-price sold for 241, high price sold for over 519,000. If you calculate the average price on those 3 homes, those 3 sales in that month, your average price is $306,115. Your median, of course, is the middle one, the 241. Now, if you say 12 months later, we sold 3 homes again. Only this time we didn't sell a low-priced home. We sold 2 mid-priced homes in addition to 1 high-priced home. Prices didn't change, just the mix changed. When you calculate the average price on that, the average of those 3 is $334,423 for an year-over-year increase of 9.25%. Notice prices didn't change in the different price ranges. The average price didn't change, but I generated a 9.25% year-over-year growth.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that explains for your viewers what kind of an impact the change in mix can have on the average price in the market. So then let's take a look. Well, what about price variance?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of an impact does price variance have? So let's go back to the same 3-home market in July, and we have the same statistics for July of 2019. Now let's say in the 3 different price ranges, still low, medium, and high. So the mix didn't change, but there was some growth, some change in price year over year. And I've got the 3 changes there, and the new July 2020 prices. The average price in that market is $308,911 for a growth of only 0.91% year over year. So I hope for your folks can understand that when you change the mix of homes in a market, it has a much bigger impact than the change in prices. And so I went through and in the presentation for your audience, you can see I've got the detailed calculations, but I just want to show the summary, or just kind of the summary when I did this price variance analysis. And I used three price cohorts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I divided Houston into three price cohorts from 0 to 200,000, from 200 to 300, and 300 and above, and did this volume and price variance analysis. And the average price change every year was 9.2%, but 91.6% of that change can be attributed to the change in price distribution. Only 8.4% can be attributed to the change in increasing home values. And when I did another analysis and increased the number of cohorts. So there was more movement between price cohorts and less movement in price. And when you increase the number of cohorts, there's more distribution, and that percentage from the distribution even goes up higher. So somewhere between 91.6 and 100% of the change in the market is due to the change in the mix. And a much smaller percentage is due to the change in price. So I hope when folks look at prices year over year, they remember what was the more important thing, the change in mix. And so I think it's important to understand that and not go out and tell your clients, hey, if you buy a house now, 10 years or a year from now, it might be worth 10% more. That's not how it works. It's not, you can't use the statistics like that. And I took a look, you hear a lot about bidding wars and, people paying more than list price. Well, obviously that would make the close to original list price greater than 100%.
Right.
When I look at the close to original list price, it changed. It was in July of this year was 96.6%. July of last year was 96%. There wasn't that big of a change. So there may be some bidding wars in some areas, but it's not the market overall. And when I did the same volume and variance analysis on the close to original list price, the increase, that 0.6% increase can be attributed primarily to buyers paying closer to original list price. So for homes over 200, that's where the increase, closer to original list, that's where the increase was. And so it comes down to bidding wars. I guess my summary is bidding wars are local. Mm-hmm. The wider market hasn't experienced that same increase. So that, anyways, that's what I found, and I hope, and the slide shows the detail, and your folks can dig into that later.
Yeah, definitely. And as I mentioned earlier, if you are just tuning in, Gerald put together a really great presentation for all of you that we will be sharing the link to at the end, so be sure to stick around for that. Also, I don't see any questions just yet, but if you have any questions for Gerald, type them in and we will get to those. So you already alluded to this as well, Gerald, but throughout this pandemic, we've heard consumers are trying to buy larger homes, more space, maybe a dedicated office space, or maybe a classroom space for their children. What can you tell us about that? What are you seeing there?
When I look at the size of the homes over the last 12 months, from July to this July, the average price of homes at all three of those price cohorts has actually decreased. So the size of homes, at least the average size home in the market, has not increased. In the 300 plus market, it was down 43 square feet. In the 200 to 300, it was down 55 square feet. In the 0 to 200, it was down 35 square feet. So that's market wide, but we'll see again, there's some variance in between local markets when we start looking at location.
Okay. Very good. So I want to get into iBuyers because, again, at the beginning of this year, you joined us and discussed their effect on the market.
Okay.
And now we're ready for an update. So can you give us an update on the iBuyers effect in the Houston and Texas markets?
Sure. Okay. So what we had happen in April is there were some significant layoffs. iBuyers basically ceased purchasing operations,
Mm-hmm.
and many of the iBuyers resumed operation in Texas in early June, but with reduced workforce. What we found from the data is that buying stopped, but the selling continued. Um, we heard the in the pandemic situation, all of a sudden the marketing case for iBuyers became it was a safe way to sell. You didn't have to have people coming through your home.
Mm-hmm.
And it provided the instant purchases when people didn't know if buyers were ever going to come back into the market. So that really became the case. Um, of course, the drawback for iBuyers during the pandemic is they didn't know how long they were going to be stuck with inventory. So, of course, stopping purchases made sense for them because holding period matters. Well, when you look at the chart of the sales, and we've got a chart here that shows, these are just the national players,
Mm-hmm.
the largest, OfferPad, Open Door, Zillow offers, and Redfin now has just started into the Texas market here lately. But Open Door is the big player. And you can see in the Houston MSA what the trend in the purchases has been and how it pretty much stopped by the April timeframe when the layoff started. And our data runs through June. So you can see how the purchases went almost to zero, but the sales, you can see they were still selling.
Mm-hmm.
So they had the inventory there ready to go, and they were still selling. When you look at the distribution, so let's take a look in the Houston MSA, and let's look at the iBuyers as a percentage of the D transactions.
Mm-hmm.
And let's break it down by zip code. You can see the areas where they are, have the highest percentage, but even then, it's a very small percentage of the market. But I hope your folks can see there, the darker areas are where you're in the 4.5% to 6.5% range, the D transactions. And when you look at what it is they're buying, I looked at the actual data and matched it up with the transactions. And we look in 2018, Open Door was really the only player in the Houston MSA area, the only national player. There's been local players in the market for a long time. You pull up to the intersection, you see that sign on the corner. It says, "We buy ugly homes." There's been those types of cash buyers in the past. And just like they say, they purchase ugly homes that need some rehab. Your national players are dealing more with homes that are a little more attractive, don't need as much work to turn around and resell, because for them, it's all about the turnover. And when you look at Open Door in 2018, you can see the median size was 2,356 square feet, median lot size a little over 7,300, year build 2002, median assessed just over 200,000. It's interesting when you look in 2019, OfferPad was focused on the smallest homes in the Houston MSA and the lowest assessed value. Zillow was transacted in the largest. Zillow Offers was transacting in the largest of the homes and the highest assessed value. When you look at 2020 so far, all of them, now of course there's, I guess basically this is January through March, all of them were purchasing smaller homes, anywhere from 1,900 to 2,157 square feet, 6,500 square foot lot to 7,000. So it's interesting to see the change as they're working out their business model and gathering data. they're having to adjust
Mm-hmm.
and trying to figure out how to make a profitable business model. And so you're going to see this variation in types of homes they're purchasing. Um, the Yeah, so that's what they're buying.
Yes, yes, very good. I actually see a question here from Anya um, about home prices, going back to that really quick. She said, I've been told that the price of homes are rising due to the cost of lumber. Do you believe that to be true?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that particularly that's a great question
Mm-hmm.
because it's impacting new homes primarily. Right, lumber impacts. It's an input into new home construction. I've heard or I read that at the National Home Builders, they're estimating as it's adding about $14,000 to the cost of a new home. Of course, that's an average figure, but what happens is when your replacement cost, being the new home prices go up, your existing homes will also go up because if somebody says, well, I don't want to buy an existing home, I'd rather buy a new home, they're going to end up spending more because lumber and the inputs are more. And so if they want to buy that new home, they're going to pay it a lot more. But then your existing home buyer or home sellers can also raise the price of their home, so they can have higher prices as well that are closer to the new home. And so, yes, that's a great question. And the cost of construction, when replacement cost goes up, cost of existing stock can also go up.
That makes sense. I see another question here. Where did it go? There it is. Sorry. Diana asked, do you think we will see an impact in the Houston market from the pandemic and unemployment in the months to come?
Uh, I I say yes. It's very interesting. Right now, we're living on stimulus money. The generous unemployment benefits has basically plugged the gap to where people were actually making more being unemployed than they were working. Well, that money has turned around into consumer spending for all the things that people are buying these days, the outdoor stuff, right? The camping gear and the outdoor stuff. So we haven't really seen a drop off in economic or as severe as what could have happened if people really were out of work.
Mm-hmm.
We've got another stimulus package coming from Congress to keep incomes up. Well, you might be making unemployment, but if you don't have a job, how certain do you really feel about your future?
Sure.
So I think at the lower, and again, those folks that are dealing with unemployment are dealing at the low end of the market, which is already being hit.
Mm-hmm.
The folks that can work at home and are higher income earners, they're out there buying homes at lower mortgage rates. So I think we are still going to see for a period of time struggles at the low end of the market, and eventually the folks at the high end will have bought everything that they're going to buy, and you're going to see activity from that slow down. This high demand can't last forever. Eventually, everybody will purchase homes. So I would just say, now's a great time to be saving and building up, your savings, because things aren't going to be this great for the next, for forever. So.
Sure. Nick asked if you have any data on low appraisals. This is something that we've heard from our members, that appraisals are coming in lower than expected. Do you have any data there?
No, we don't receive appraisal data, but it wouldn't surprise me in some parts of the market that are less liquid, where appraisals would be lower, particularly low-priced homes. But and I can see in higher-priced homes where appraisers are just struggling to keep up
Mm-hmm.
with what's going on because the market's changing so fast.
Makes sense. So I have another question for you. You analyze data, but you are also um, you have a passion for real estate, and you stay. You have a subscription to Inman News, and you stay in the know. And I know you've been analyzing iBuyers a lot. So I'm just curious: do you believe that iBuyers have moved our industry forward?
Absolutely, I do. When you look at what's the number one service that iBuyers provide are, or the big benefit is certainty of transaction execution. There was a big part of the, well, not a big, there was a part of the market where people needed to be able to sell their homes quickly and move. They didn't want to spend time fixing it up. Either they didn't have the time or didn't have the expertise. And so iBuyers was a great way. It was a new thing that they could, get that certainty of transaction. How many real estate brokerages out there would have gone out and raised the capital and started a business buying homes directly?
Mm-hmm.
Without that competition from iBuyers, that segment of the market would not have been serviced by traditional brokerages. And so I think it's been a good, I don't know, wake up call or a new type of competition that now you see the larger brokerages are starting to roll out their own programs where they're raising capital and actually providing that direct home purchase. And so it's a great way of expanding the services. Another thing that's happened that I really think has been great is it's increased the focus on getting a higher price for the seller. Now, not only can sellers sell directly to a broker or to an iBuyer, but brokerages are starting to partner with home improvement firms like a Curbio or others. I've heard about in the early days about Keller Williams partnering with Curbio up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, to where an agent can work with a remodeling expert to figure out how to get a higher price for the seller, which is great. But we wouldn't have had that if we hadn't had the iBuyer. So I think it's been a good benefit.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Alrighty. I don't see any other questions coming in from our members, Gerald. Is there anything else you wanted to share with them about home prices, iBuyers, the market in general, anything?
Yeah, I think iBuyers. It's been on top of mind for your folks, but iBuyers. I think there's this fear that, oh no, they're going to come in and take over the market. And I think everybody needs to understand that iBuyers are still losing money. They haven't figured out a profitable business model yet. And so don't assume that they can continue operating a loss forever. They're going to expand their operations and services. Brokerages are going to expand their iBuying service. So I'd say don't be afraid of iBuyers. I'd say figure out what needs they're meeting and work within your brokerage to meet those needs as well. And then you can benefit from it. And I think we're going to see more mergers and acquisitions, more partnerships. I think Zillow Offers just partnered with D.R. Horton to buy so if somebody signs up to buy a D.R. Horton home, Zillow Offers will agree to purchase the existing home from the seller when the new home is built and they're ready to move. It's examples like that I think if folks look at iBuyers and what needs they're meeting and think about how they can meet the needs in their brokerage, I think the industry will be better off for that.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that insight. And I do want to share in the comments with everybody that it's really important to stay in the know. I mentioned that you had an Inman Select subscription, and that allows you to see what's going on in our industry. I did put in a link. All HAR members have access to a free Inman Select subscription, so make sure you sign up for that. I did see a couple questions pop up. A comment here from Val. Thank you, Gerald. Always great information, data and updates from the mothership. So Sean just asked, what demographic changes do you see? I'm not...
Okay, so demographics, great question. Great question. So a lot of what I've been reading and hearing these days is that millennials are finally ready to start having millennial couples are start ready to have children and are ready for more space.
Hmm.
We've been waiting for it and waiting for it. The millennials have been, satisfied in the rich urban environments, small locations close to downtown. But a lot of what I've been reading and hearing is that they're finally ready, just like the boomers were, just like previous generations were. Once you start having kids, you need more space,
Hmm.
and that's been part of this movement out to the suburbs, or to homes with more space, the backyard, and that's been a part of. So this pandemic may have been that catalyst that maybe got them moving on a little larger scale, along with lower interest rates, mortgage rates. It may have been that catalyst
Hmm.
that will finally get them moving out to where homes are a little bit bigger. So that's the major trend that I've been reading about these days.
Yeah, that makes sense. Diana asked this question, so if you could just recap, this is what we were just discussing. Do you think the presence and success of iBuyers changed the way traditional brokers work? And I think the answer to that was yes,
I
right?
think absolutely it's yes, but I think that you're going to see some more. There's going to be more creativity amongst brokerages. There's going to be more expansion of service among iBuyers, uh, because they need additional revenue streams
Hmm.
to generate profitability. So this is the early stages, and I just see things, a competition producing more benefits for sellers and ultimately for the folks that broker in these transactions.
I think something that we've noticed commonly over the years is these disruptors, as we call them or have called them in the past, they find what's missing in the market. So take a look at what's missing in the market, figure out what consumers are needing, and that's probably where they're going to be heading next.
Right,
Yeah.
right, absolutely.
Paul asked, are you seeing data indicating unemployed homeowners are falling behind on mortgage payments?
Uh, the data is very difficult right now because of the degree of forbearance.
Mm-hmm.
I read statistics. I hear, on one hand, I read how um, delinquencies are falling. At the same time, I'm reading about how forbearance efforts are, it's the extend and pretend, right, that we had back in 2008. Folks fell behind, and what did we do? We extended the mortgage and pretended they were current. What I'm kind of reading, and the general feeling I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
from the information I'm seeing is that there's a lot of extending going on, and we haven't hit the hard end yet. And as long as the extending goes on, the foreclosure moratoriums, the eviction moratoriums, you're not going to see the numbers get ugly as long as the extension goes on. And with another congressional stimulus bill coming, you could see extensions continue.
Mm-hmm.
It's until the moratoriums and the extensions and the subsidies stop, that's when things could get more difficult, particularly at the low end of the market, where the jobs have been hit the hardest.
Sure. Good. So again, we just shared the link for Gerald's slides in the comments. He created those just for you guys, so you're welcome to go download them, take a deeper look at some of them. We only showed a handful here today, but he's got a lot of great information in there. Gerald, any last words for our members?
Uh, Wish you guys great success. You've got great leadership. Just enjoy speaking and interacting with you folks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So that's it for this Member Focus Monday. Next Monday at 9 a.m., we will be joined by the HAR Virtual Engage co-chairs, who are going to be discussing this year's HAR Virtual Engage conference, the first time we ever do it virtually. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you again, Gerald, and thank you to all of the HAR members that tuned in this morning. Have a great week, everybody, and stay safe in the storms. Bye-bye.